Welcome everybody to the free training webinar for the Edge. This year we are resuming our 30-minute free training webinars, and we're going to be having these once a month. And we will communicate that through email, which will come from training-go-to-webinar@foundationsoft.com. Before we begin, I have a couple housekeeping items. All lines have been muted. We have a really big group today, so we're going to mute those lines, and then you can submit your questions anytime in the questions sections. And then moderators will be available to answer your questions throughout the webinar. And then if we don't get to those questions during this session, we'll email you afterwards to make sure that all your questions are answered. The second thing is that our webinar is going to be recorded, and we're going to send that to you 2 to 4 hours after the webinar. That email comes from GoToWebinar, so if you don't receive, just check your junk spam. The third thing is that we have a new playlist on YouTube, which I've included the URL, as well as you're going to, once you receive the recorded webinar email, that YouTube playlist URL will be included in that email for you. And we're going to put all of those 2024 recorded webinars in that playlist. We have a new contact email since we were acquired by Foundation, and our email is training-go-to-webinar@foundationsoft.com. And again, that will be in the email that gets sent to all of the attendees after this webinar. And then if you notice the introduction slide, our parent company Foundation is hosting a user conference called Converge. It's held every other year, includes education sessions, guest speakers, product peeks, demos, and it's really a great way to interact with the product and sales team. So we really encourage you to go check out that website. If you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to us. And then lastly, at the end of the webinar, we've included a survey, which we encourage you to fill out since it helps us provide that right content and create the best experience for everybody. While we're waiting for everybody to join, there's still people kind of rolling in. We have invited Derek Eklum from Foundation, and he's a sales representative for Foundation products. And he's just going to take 5 minutes to share news on a product that's in the Foundation portfolio that could be of interest to all of you. So I'm going to pass that off over to Derek.
Thank you, Tammy. Let me go ahead and show my screen. And it looks like everybody can see my screen. And yeah, I appreciate it. And I promise I won't take up too much of your time. I'm Derek from Foundation Software, and just wanted to show you guys a little bit about our HQ Suite, which is a web-based project management platform. And you might be wondering, well, maybe I don't have Foundation. Well, if you do, it integrates, but it can always act as a standalone project management platform as well. The main idea behind this is it allows you to create and track and manage all of your job documents, email things out, keep track or store pictures and drawings and whatnot. Like, for example, here on the main page, if I select a project, it'll take me more to a dashboard view where I get into things like daily logs. There's a scheduling part to this, email tracking, document management. It keeps track of weather. Foundation is located just a little bit outside of Cleveland, so everybody gets a snow day here. All the kids are excited about off of school. But if you look down the left-hand side of the toolbar here, you get into things like AI billings, so you can create and manage your schedule of values. You can create your applications. You can email these directly out of the platform. I mentioned daily logs a little bit ago, but yeah, that's a feature for documents. There are RFIs, submittals, kind of standard documents, but then there's also the ability to create user-defined documents, which can really be whatever you'd want those to be. And as just an example, like if I hop into an RFI here, you just have a nice interface here where you can toggle by status. There's keyword searches. There's the ability to run reports and logs. And for the documents themselves, you have full control over being able to design custom templates, different entry fields, track correspondence, review attachments or store attachments. There's also a annotation and markup feature to this. So if you wanted to mark up PDFs, capture signatures, keep an audit trail, basically like a document layering where you have the original document, modifications, and who did those. That's all a part of this platform. And then for email correspondence, this would integrate directly with your Outlook or Gmail or whatever email that you're using. But yeah, things like RFI submittals, miscellaneous documents, you probably saw punch lists here. There's also a way to track job budgets, change order management, committed costs. So this is where you get into things like purchase orders and subcontracts. And like I mentioned earlier, there's a scheduling aspect to this. There's also reporting, getting into, I mentioned budget, but if you wanted to get into job cost reporting, there's parts to that too. So all in all, our HQ Suite is a web-based project management platform. It does integrate with Foundation, but if you don't have Foundation, you can always use this as a standalone option as well. And if you are interested, at the end of the presentation, there's just going to be a little questionnaire. So if you would like us to reach out and touch base on that, please don't hesitate to do so. And with that being said, I'll turn it back over to Tammy, and she'll take you guys the rest of the way here.
All right, thanks, Derek. We are ready to begin. So today, Davis Matthews will be presenting. He's been with The Edge now for 2 years, and he's really a great addition to our team. He was trained by Joe and Mike. So many of you know Joe Pettit and Mike Mao also. So Davis has a lot of knowledge from those two guys. He's going to be showing you collaboration today. So Davis, I'm going to pass that off to you, the screen here for you.
Perfect. Thank you, Tammy. Okay. Hello, and welcome to the first in a series of Edge webinars for 2024. So as Tammy said, today's event, we are going to cover the collaboration feature. My name is Davis Matthews, and I will be walking you through the different ways that collaboration can be a benefit to your process. So what is Edge collaboration? Well, the simple answer is that there are going to be times where you may need multiple people working on a bid simultaneously. So whether you are on a deadline and need to pull in emergency help from other estimators, or you have a large project that needs to be expedited, or if you have subject matter experts that handle certain types of estimating, collaboration can be a benefit to you. So for example, off of that last point, in roofing, you may have specialists that deal with taper design, sloped roofing, or sheet metal applications. In the interior realm, you may have drywall specialists and acoustic specialists. Now, these could be done in a collaborative sense, with the specialists doing their part along with the other estimators. One important note, by default, the Edge will only allow one drawing screen to be opened at a time. However, when you are collaborating, the Edge will allow multiple drawing screens to be open, but you are still limited to one drawing screen per collaborator. Now, in general, the bid originator is going to set up the collaboration realm. It is possible that a second estimator could engineer his own collaborative access through the scenario level. However, you can't do it at the sections level. So with that in mind, I'm going to dive into collaboration. So collaboration can be done in two different places. Firstly, the scenarios breadcrumb in a bid, and secondly, the sections breadcrumb in a bid. So let's first look at the scenario collaboration. You'll see that I have two bids. I'm going to just click this next arrow on this top bid to showcase that scenario collaboration. Notice that we have two scenarios. We have one titled main roof and one titled taper design. I also want to point out that you do have under this collaboration tools both a check-in and a checkout option for both of these scenarios. The checkout option is active, suggesting that it is ready to be checked out of the cloud. Now, as I mentioned earlier, any estimator could start their own scenario for collaboration purposes, and you can create multiple scenarios by just coming up to this plus. It says add scenario and going ahead and clicking on it like so. So that is going to pop up with this dialog box. The only requirement is that I put a unique name for the scenario. So I'm going to title this sheet metal. And like I said, anybody can do it at this point. After you do create a scenario, it is automatically going to check it out of the cloud. by default. So go ahead and click check in to check that back into the cloud. One major caveat with the scenario collaboration is that the material and pricing will not be combined for the different scenarios at the recap screen. Each scenario is going to have its own recap. So if you want the material and labor pricing to combine, you will need to collaborate at the sections level, which I'm going to show you in just a little bit. So now let me walk you through the steps that an estimator will take when they have a job that approaches collaboration at the scenarios breadcrumb. So I'm going to assume that I am in charge of this main roof. First, I'm going to check out the scenario that I am in charge of. And once that has been checked out, I'm going to click this next arrow to move forward through the sections breadcrumb, through the pages breadcrumb, and finally to the conditions breadcrumb. Now, if there were no conditions in here, I would of course have to add them in here, perform a takeoff, and then configure these conditions. And after I've done that, the next step would be to price out my material, my labor, and then finally go to the recap screen, which I want to highlight for you. So on the recap screen, as I pointed out before, each scenario has its own individual unique recap. This total job cost you see here is the total for this main roof scenario, which I am in. So there are some benefits to having each scenario have their own recap screen. And one of the main benefits is I can assign a unique markup for each of my scenarios. So if I know that my labor burden for this main roof is, let's say 60%, I can come in here and change this from 50% to 60% like so, and it will only affect the burden for this scenario. All of my other scenarios will not have this 60% burden unless I go in and change it or I combine those. Now, there is a way that I can view the totals of all of my scenarios at one time, and it is actually through a report. So come up and click your reports icon, and then if you scroll down, it is the second report up from the bottom titled Scenario Summary. You will want to click that little play icon to open it, and once that's opened, you will see that there are going to be the names of my scenarios on the left, the net cost, the gross price, and the selling price for all three of my scenarios individually and all of them totaled together. So that is one way that you can view all of your totals in a scenario collaboration. The other way that you can do so is by combining your scenarios at the sections level. So let me walk you through how to do that real quick. First, I'm going to exit out of my reports, and I'm going to want to go back to my sections breadcrumb. I'm going to want to mark the section that I want to copy or that I want to move over. And once I've marked it, I will want to right click anywhere on this line and I will have that copy option. Once I click copy, I can come back to my scenarios and I can check in my main roof scenario. Once that is checked in, I can come into whatever other scenario that I want to combine it in. In this case, I want to combine it into my taper design. I will want to check out the scenario that I want to put that section in. And from here, I can right click and select paste section. It's going to want me to verify that I do in fact want to paste it over. So I will click yes, and then it wants me to ensure everything that I want to copy over. So I want to make sure all these boxes are checked to make sure I don't lose any work, and click copy. It will need a unique name, so I'm going to call this main roof and click save. Now you will see in my scenario, I am in this taper design scenario. It is checked out currently, and when I click the next arrow, I now have two sections, one for the taper design and one for the main roof. Now if I go to the recap screen, you will see that total job for both of those sections combined into this one recap. And from here, I can then make those changes. Say I want to set my burden at 55% or any other markup to change, I could do so here. That is how you can collaborate at the scenario level. So next we have the sections level in which you can collaborate. Let me show you that. First, I will want to check in this scenario because I'm completely done with it. And I'm going to come back to my bids breadcrumb, minimize that job, and open up this section collaboration job. So some of the key differences, let me go back to this scenario's breadcrumb, but some of those key differences are you only have one scenario. When you collaborate at the sections level, you will only have one scenario. So I'm going to go ahead and check this out. And then I'm going to click this next arrow to move forward to the sections breadcrumb. And you will notice I have two sections, one main roof, and that's titled under my name, Davis, and one taper design, and that's assigned to a fellow estimator named Spencer. Similar to our scenario collaboration, you can create a new section at any point by coming up to that same blue plus, clicking on it, and giving it a unique name. So I'm again going to title it sheet metal, but I'm also going to assign it to a third estimator named Paul. Once I've done that, you will notice that my check-in and check-out option is not available for any of these sections. The reasoning behind that is because I have checked the entire job out at the scenario's breadcrumb. So once the lead estimator or the bid originator has set up their sections, they will need to come back to the scenario breadcrumb and check in that job. By doing so, it is allowing each individual estimator to check out their individual section. You will see now those options are available for me. So because this main roof is assigned to myself, I can come and check out this section, and then I could go through the normal steps to estimate this section. I can click the next arrow to go to the pages, once more to get to my conditions breadcrumb, perform a takeoff, price out my material and labor, and view my recap screen. There is one key difference to the recap screen, and you will notice up here in the top left in bright red it says read only mode. We need to check out the scenario to make changes. So even though I have checked out my individual section, I cannot make any changes to any of these markups or anything else on this recap screen until my section is checked in and the scenario is checked out. So let me show you how that looks. I will come back to my sections breadcrumb, and after I have finished estimating, I will check in my section. And once all of these sections are checked in, I could go back to my scenarios breadcrumb, check out the entire job, and then from here, I could go directly to the recap screen by clicking on that checkbox icon here. And once I do that, I no longer have that bright red warning, and I could come up and change my tax from 7% to 8.5% and click save. And that will make that change in all of those individual sections. You still have that same report that I showed you with the scenario level to view all of your totals at once, or you could just come to this recap screen with your scenario checked out. Now, as I said before, it is highly imperative that once you have finished estimating your individual section, that you have checked in all of these sections. Every estimator needs to check in their section when they are done, and then it is up to the bid originator or the lead estimator to go back to the scenario level, check it out, and then check it back in. By checking it in, you are ensuring that all of the estimators have checked in their section and you aren't losing any progress that you have made in your bid through the collaboration. So that has concluded this webinar on collaboration. As I said before, my name is Davis Matthews, and at this point, we will ask Mike if there are any questions from the attendees. Mike?
Great job, Davis. No, we have no questions today. You did a great job at explaining that, but thank you for that time, and we'll see you again, Davis. Appreciate it.
Perfect. Thank you, Mike. So this concludes the webinar for today. Please look for our next webinar in February when we review the Edge portal. Again, my name is Davis Matthews. Thank you for joining today, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. Thank you.